OTC. Are you down with OTC? Are you down with OTC? OTC. Are you down with OTC? Are you down with OTC? Down with OTC.
What in the world was that? Holy cow. I felt like I was being censored and they weren't going to let us into the room. I don't know what that was all about, but we're here. We're getting ready to start and it's going to be great. So we got all sorts of people coming in. This is Jeff. You're here on the How to Review exclusively on the chain. So today, man, we are going to talk about a lot of great things because recently they just announced the first CBDC that's actually built kind of in the blockchain space, and that is the Bahamian Sand Dollar. I think that was pretty exciting. We've got Ripple, you know, RippleNet. They are considering leaving the US, going to the UK, going to Japan. Nobody knows where they're going to end up, but their thought is that they got to flee the US. They're looking for a more regulatory friendly space. And I think one of the biggest things that happened this week is PayPal moving in the direction, allowing people to buy and sell crypto on the PayPal platform. That could really have some major impact on what's going on in this space. And that's what we're going to talk about today, right now. All right, no delay on that one. That's awesome. So this is fantastic. First day, first morning that there isn't rain, I think is a good thing. So, and we're gonna fly through this. There's so much to talk about. Before we get started, though, if you guys, this is your first time here on the chain, make sure you guys give a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button because we're gonna talk about a lot of great things. We've got, just want to give some shout outs because we got people here on YouTube. And we have people tuning in through Twitter over on Periscope. I want to give a shout out to XRP Yoda, who's tuning in via Periscope and Twitter. So what is up? Good to see you on. We've got Mike Kegley that's on here. Chip was the first one in the room, and then we also had Mike Kegley that bounced in here with us. So and it's great. I keep seeing new names that are in here. Like, let's see, we got Ray Run, David D. What's up? Always good to see you back. Tony Morissette, Carl Lewis, the jokester himself. So this is really, really, really cool. But let's dig in. Let's jump in. Let's figure this stuff out because we have a ton of stuff to go through and a short amount of time to do it in. And the first thing that I want to do, and I think this is like the best way to kick this off, because we're going to talk a little bit about Ripple. And there was this really great article that came out. It was on Ripple Insights, where you had the CTO of Ripple, who is David Schwartz, interviewing the CEO and co-founder of Bitso, which is Mexico's leading crypto exchange. And so the CEO of Bitso, Daniel Vogel. And really, the reason why I want to bring this up, then we're going to transition. Then we'll talk a little bit about, why is Ripple considering leaving the United States? Is that good? Is that bad? Love to hear some feedback from you guys as well. Look at this. We got people in here all the way in now from Abu Dhabi. What is up? Etienne Van Aden, all the way in here from Abu Dhabi today. We get people here from Australia. We have people that come in from Thailand. We have people that come in from the UK. We have people in the US. We got people from all over the world here with us today. And it's always great when that happens. We love that interaction. I think it's really, really fantastic to see that. So definitely, again, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and that's going to really help on the chain. So, all right, let's get into this. There were two important quotes that I pulled out of this article. And we want to focus in a little bit onto Ripple because things are happening. We're going to talk also a little bit about PayPal, Bitcoin. The space is heating up, and that we like to see that. Is Bitcoin going to hit the numbers that people anticipate? That we keep seeing all these big players in the space keep talking about some big six-digit numbers that could be hit. Or is it going to be in the short term? Is it 5 years? We don't know, but what is PayPal's role in this, and what is PayPal going to buy? Because one of the things that we talk a lot about on this show is the blending between the banking space and the digital asset exchange space. PayPal has been in that borderline, payment space for a long time. And when we look at these technologies and we look at these big companies, you look at the bank's legacy, old money, been around a long time. But do they have as much money as some of these technology companies that are generating significantly more revenue than they are? If you look at like a Google or an Amazon or maybe even a PayPal, are they bigger than and have more capability, capacity, financial capacity to start buying in this industry? Are the banks going to be left on the sidelines, just holding their bags? And so that's the question. And we're going to talk a lot more about that also today. But here we have, let me get with these quotes, and we're going to bounce back and forth between this and the chat and everything else. But so this first quote, these are from Daniel Vogel when he was interviewed by David Schwartz. This first quote, I like this quote. "We believe that in Latin America, you have an immediate area of opportunity for building real use cases." Now, when we think about just that opening statement alone, why is Latin America ripe for it? Why would, let's say, Africa be ripe for it? Why would Southeast Asia be ripe for it? Because you have a lot of countries with currencies that are not stable, where you also have a good number of people that are relatively unbanked that need to get into the banking space. And so you could look at it from different perspectives. But that's important. And I've mentioned, in my dealings with people in different parts of Latin America and Mexico, et cetera, where they might have 5, 6, 7, 8 different bank accounts, not like here because you're trying to stay within the FDIC requirement of your $250,000 coverage. But they're doing it so they can keep as little money as possible in a bank for a safety perspective. Safety because one of the tellers might be working with someone on the outside. Now they're going to kidnap you. And you know how the rest of that story goes. But also because of, a lack of trust within the financial institutions. And actually, in this statement, Daniel Vogel continues. Let me continue reading. He says, because trust in financial institutions is eroded. So this is why he's looking. He's saying, you know what, this is amazing. We're seeing this amazing opportunity right now, right here in Latin America for an expansion, a development in the crypto space. People in Latin America overall, there's different sentiments. Obviously, again, currency instability, lack of trust in financial institutions. Another point that he brings up, access is very limited, and there's just a very big need for these financial services and products. So yes, so access is significant. We talked about this, whether you're over in India, whether you're in parts of Asia, Africa, Latin America, whatever. Sometimes getting to banks is not easy. And that's why you have people that are unbanked, or they can't afford to bank. It costs them more money to put their legacy fiat currency into the bank, but they need it. They have to spend. They're going to spend day to day. They go out, they work, they spend. They work, they spend. It never hits the bank. We have people here in the United States as well that are unbanked, and you have those money changing operations that charge, I don't know, 15, 20% exchange on the money. And people are taking paychecks, going to these money changing stores. Instead of going to the bank and depositing in the bank, they go to the paycheck store, and they're willing to pay those high percentages in order to get cash right away because they don't have a bank account. So they're unbanked, not necessarily because they can't afford the banking, because in the US, you have a lot of banks that don't cost you anything, or they're very minimal, or in these startup scenarios, you can get checking without spending anything on it. But yet they're still living paycheck to paycheck, dollar to dollar. They're in that fiat world. When you're not in the banking space, banking sphere, or the financial sphere, you have no credit. And if you're not there, you can't get loans. You can't get business loans. So if you go into these countries, Latin America or India or elsewhere, and if they're not banking, how do they expand a business? How do they get into business? So they might be operating a business, but they're even paying their vendors on the spot, right? So if you have someone selling produce, they're going to the market, wherever they get the produce, they're buying that produce, but they're paying cash on delivery or on pickup. And then they sell their cash. Now they have the money. They put a certain amount aside for the next day, and they live off the rest. But if you get into the financial world, as we all know, it allows you to build credit, it allows you to order from your vendors, have it delivered, get certain terms on your product. So getting into the financial space is more important than ever, and they're realizing and recognizing this. So and this is what his statement is. There's a need. Access is limited, so it's needed. He goes on, and there's just a very big need for these financial services and products, and that's the services and products, whether it's a mortgage or a loan on your car, or again, a business loan. And he continues, we really believe that a radically improved financial system is being created on top of this technology. I think that's a major, major statement. I know I'm not showing you this. I just realized, but that's a major statement, right? So if they're a radically improved financial system, here's a guy, CEO of Bitso. They're the lead exchange in Mexico. They're expecting that big things are getting ready to happen, right? That they're building on this technology. It's going to revolutionize. It's going to change the way the financial system works, not just for the financial system at the top, but the financial system in the lower levels as well. That's massive. I like seeing that kind of discourse. I like seeing those kind of comments, because that's their focus, right? If we look at JP Morgan, if we look at Wells Fargo, if you look at any of these big entities, right, where are they primarily focused? Their focus is at the top, right? They're not looking at the bottom. Most of the money that they're going to move is at the top echelon. They're also looking in the middle. They want people to put their money there. They want to pay 0 interest to your money held. And if you take out loans, they want to charge you higher rates on loans typically. But they want to also be involved in that money movement, in the stock movement. That's where their money is. That's how they're making their money. They're not making their money on people keeping, $1,000 in a checking account or in that really, really small business. However, they need to support those small businesses as well, And so that's why they give incentive to small business. We want to help small business. We want business to grow and to thrive. So in that banking space, sometimes, you don't feel the same type of responsiveness from a bank when you're a smaller business than if you're a bigger business putting millions of dollars in, if you're in the thousands. But that access has to be there. But the mindset also has to shift to helping build up these small businesses. The small businesses are the essence of any community. It doesn't matter, right? It's not government, it's entrepreneurship. It's the small business that is how allowing people to grow and develop. That's how the economy is going to get move forward further. So then he goes on with another comment here. I promise I'll get over to your comments here in a second. But the next comment from Daniel here in this article, he says, the big power of crypto is the democratization of access, right? So what that means is that you're allowing all access, right? Everybody can get access to crypto. It doesn't matter where you are, at what level. We're seeing crypto access at the lower levels. However, there still have been barriers to entry, right? What are some of the barriers to entry right now if you're investing in the digital asset space? Well, you need a credit card. Well, you need a bank. Oh, by the way, you have to send your money to the digital exchange via ACH, or it has to go by bank wire, or if you're going to use your credit card. So you have to have already participated in the banking space for the most part to get involved in the digital asset space. You already had to have been, but at the same point, we're seeing people that have, if you go back up to why is there an erosion of confidence in Latin American countries in their financial institutions? Venezuela is a perfect example. Venezuela, millions of percent inflation, millions of percent. So their currency is worth nothing, right? They once had money that was worth something and now it's worth nothing. And as things progress, it gets worth even less of a nothing. And so they want to put it somewhere where they feel there's going to be some stability, some faith, some trust. And that's why you see a Bitcoin resurgence, or an altcoin, a digital asset resurgence, or surgence, not resurgence, but surgence in Latin America, because they're putting it somewhere where they feel there's going to be stability. So if you put your money into, XRP, you have, small little movements, percent here, percent there. Bitcoin, it could be 5% up, 5% down, 10% up, 10%. Big movements fast. Right now it ramped up to 13,000. It could drop back down to 10,000. But you know what? Even with those percentage changes in Latin America, if you go to Venezuela, when you're used to millions of percent of inflation, hey, you know what? That's awesome. That's nothing. Those little are micro changes from their perspective, because they feel that there's going to be some stability, and that's what it's bringing. It's allowing people to put their money where they want to put it without being detrimentally impacted by the government at hand and the government's impact on their own economy. So if you look at your own economy and you're like, holy, this is bad. It's up and down. Our currency's all over the place. And I try to trade globally, and I just can't do it because my currency keeps devaluing, and it devalues, value goes back, and it's constantly in flux, and you just can't do anything, so the democratization of access is critical, especially when it gets to a point where it's developed and you can start reaching out to those who would be deemed the unbanked. Again, bringing the unbanked into the banking world so that they can be participants in the global financial realm, so to speak, right? And that global financial realm could be anything. I had mentioned this a while ago. I did this whole thing on this exact topic, but imagine you're a producer in Latin America. Let's say you're growing, you're harvesting coffee beans, and you harvest those coffee beans. You're only a buyer, typically, if you're the one harvesting the coffee bean, is someone that comes in and they're buying that coffee bean from you, and it's a local transaction. Now imagine you're growing those coffee beans and you can market it. Maybe it's regional marketing. I don't know. It could be country to country within a close proximity of your coffee beans. You can get your website going. You can then harvest. You send them some samples. They like your samples. Maybe they come and visit you. You then produce, you ship. Right. But now you're in that financial space. You've generated and elevated your standing within the financial space. And that is important, especially when we want to see, economies grow up. We don't want to see economies at the top and economies at the bottom. We want to see everybody have an opportunity to flourish. And I think, what Daniel was saying there is really, really a critical statement. So here he goes on. It's amazing. This is one paragraph. I just took like 4 words out of it. So here's another one. Okay, so he says, in Mexico, if you don't earn over a certain amount of money, you're just not interesting to traditional financial institutions. That's exactly what we just said, right? They don't care, especially in other countries. In the U.S., hey, you know what? Yeah, fine. You want to open a bank account? Open a bank account. Over there, there's scenarios where they won't even, they don't care. They're not going to give you any. They're not going to open your bank account. They don't care. It's going to be too expensive in some countries. So he ends with that. Crypto solves that problem, and it does. So as you move into that direction, imagine you can start getting paid in crypto, in your digital asset. You can put it anywhere you want if you have access to that exchange, as long as the government doesn't shut it down. So that, to me, those 2 statements that we just read, these 2 paragraphs, are super, super, meaningful. So there you go. Now let's go up to the comments, because I know you guys were giving some great feedback here when I was over there reading some comments. Let's see here. We got Damon Haynes just bounced in here from Arkansas. So let's see. We got hang on. Here we got, this is this is David D. He was agreeing with Tony Morissette. I didn't see Tony's comment. Oh, here it is. This gets into the next topic that we're going to get into. Ripple leaving the U.S. is more of a strategic move. And so here's David says he agrees. ECB, BOE, IMF, far more receptive than many U.S. regulatory agencies, fighting over control. Plus, it is definitive. The UK does not view Ripple XRP as a security. That's a really, really valid point. Glad you brought that up, David. Wildstar just bounced in here. Hang on. Tony follows up with a comment, and then I think we're going to take this as a launching point. But at a time when the U.S. is trying to get to the front line of this technology, leaving the U.S. at this time is not a good idea. They should have left back in 2018 when they got regulatory clarity, especially like over in the UK. They could have made, maybe a little bit more of a move, at that point. So interesting. Let's see, David D. All of the struggling economies finding more safety in BTC than their own currencies, and it's proven. We just mentioned, we talked about Venezuela. Nigeria is having some issues. Lebanon's having issues. Turkey's having issues. They all have an increase of usage of BTC, of Bitcoin, versus the less struggling nations. So yeah, so that's really really important. I think that's critical. So now let's move into this next phase of our topics here. And while we're doing this, if you guys can give a thumbs up, leave some comments as well. So we're in the comments in the chat. But if you guys want to put some comments in the actual feed, then it kind of continues the conversation offline. And also a shout out that thinking what today is. Tomorrow evening, Sunday, we always do a roundtable premiere. And so we have our roundtable at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sundays. Tomorrow night, we have a community member, Sean Thompson, is going to be on. You guys can't miss that one. Make sure you guys log in tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That one is going to be an awesome roundtable. We're going to dive into a lot of topics. So make sure you guys tune in for that one. Now, let's go over here. Let's talk a little bit more about Ripple, thinking about moving, and some of the key statements, from Brad Garlinghouse as to, why they might want to move over to the UK, they might want to move over to Japan. There's some ideas of, where they could go, what could be beneficial to them, et cetera, et cetera. So get into that in a minute. Hey, I just had my coffee delivered. That was the best thing ever. Look at this. This is great. What kind of coffee is that? Is that Segfredo? What is it today? It is the red. Nice. All right. Look at this. Look at this. I didn't have a chance to make the espresso before. We're out busy with the the beast over here. And so here we go. We're gonna pour a little bit of that Segfredo into here, and oh God, look at that. That smells good. That's awesome. Uh-oh. We've got the dog protecting me from outside forces. So, all right. So let's talk just a little bit about this whole, fleeing the U.S. thing. And I think David D brought it up already. He brought up a really good point. That from a regulatory clarity perspective, you have a country like over you go to the UK, they've already addressed the regulatory aspect of it. It's a little bit more regulatory friendly. There's some obvious issues in the U.S. Dragging feet, etc. However, in the U.S. market, is it important for Ripple to stay in the U.S. market? In my opinion, yes. I think it is important that they stay in the U.S. market. I don't believe that they're actually going to be abandoning their U.S. presence. I just think that they're opening up additional offices so they have more of a local presence in the development of that space. So if you're going to move over, you want to develop Europe as an example and build more rails over in Europe, you're going to need an office over in the UK. You keep the office in San Francisco or wherever they are. I don't know if that was the most appropriate place to be, but I guess from a high tech perspective, that's a good place. However, if they're going to have a presence in the US, they got to keep pushing forward because this is one of the places where you have the most movement of money's outflow, in the smaller remittance payments. Lots and lots of transactions going out of the US and coming back into the US. But again, if you want regional influence and you want regional development, you want to reach out to those banks. Imagine, well, our only office is in San Francisco. Sorry, guys, but let's develop the UK. Europe. The UK is not in Europe anymore, but that's okay. That's fine. It's over there in that area, within an hour flight, so to speak, versus transacting, moving, flights. So from a meeting perspective, in person, if you want to operate and run an office, put it in the UK. It's friendly over there from a regulatory perspective. Maybe even looking, into some other areas. But then Asia, maybe they look at Japan. Japan is extremely friendly to the digital asset space. Singapore, extremely friendly to the digital asset space. You can even look at offices in Estonia. Or there's a lot of countries that are now becoming more and more friendly to the digital asset space. So from a regulatory clarity perspective or regulatory perspective, it makes sense. If you're in the banking space and you're trying to impact the banking space, go to where the banking is. Maybe even open up an office over in Liechtenstein. I don't know. That's that small little country, small little area. But that's not. More than Iceland would be an awesome Iceland would be great. If they open up over in Iceland, that'd be an awesome idea. I like that. So, David D, right? Yeah. So that obviously the UK hasn't left Europe, but they're no longer part of the EU, right? They haven't moved the island yet. They haven't pushed it someplace else. So the UK is still in Europe, continent of Europe. Yeah, that hasn't changed yet. Maybe sometime in the future they'll be able to change that, but not now. So, all right, let's see. Trump's Trump's done a deal with Japan. Ripple is not going to come to the UK. I don't know. We'll see. I think regional influence. I believe the UK would be a good choice. There could be other great choices. Japan is definitely an important place to put another office, as you're going to have more regional influence throughout Asia. What is up, Dakota? Good to see you on. So here we go, Tony. The implication of moving to a non-speaking English country is making things a bit harder, in my opinion. Yeah, I don't. That's a good point. Yeah, but I don't know. I think there's. Stay in the English-speaking country, go to the UK. But I think it's important if, again, regional influence, regional development, recruit more banks, you have to have a regional presence. So that's why I think Japan, I believe they're going to have something over in Dubai. I think that's going to be important as you see expansion throughout the Middle East. You probably have to have an office over in India. They need to expand. You need to develop. You have to get more presence on the ground. So so I think that that's going to be good. All right, let's move on here. Let's move on to the next thing. I mean, this was really great. Look at these guys. Can you believe this? These guys over at there we go. All right. So they keep blocking it. How are we going to go through this if they keep blocking it? Forget it. Forget these guys. All right. That's really bad. Okay, that was Bloomberg blocking my access to the article that I was going to use the headline on, but forget it. We don't need them. I just bring it up as a kind of a memory jogger as to what we're going to talk about next. But what did David D say? Oh, Japan is short up with SPI and Kitao. Need Europe exactly. Lionel over there, he's coming in through Twitter over from the UK. Also, SPI covers Asia. Good point. The Japanese business tax is 46%. The UK is 30%. Maybe they should open up in Ireland. I think over there, business tax is like 15%. So they're going to open up where it makes sense logistically, but also from a business tax perspective, I'm sure. Bruno says here, David D, yes, you're right. But when it comes to regulation, it's an important point that the UK is getting out. Not effective quite yet. We can get into that discussion. That could go on and on. So, all right, let's okay. So PayPal, PayPal getting into the digital asset. They were against it, or they at least said they weren't going to do it. They weren't doing it, but we knew the writing was on the wall with PayPal that they had to make a transition. PayPal has been in this payment space, and they were the kings. They were at the top. They were, part of eBay, then spun off or split off, but they were at the top of their game when it came to transactions online. And that was important to them. That was a really important place. And then they got dethroned, right? People look at PayPal. People might still be using PayPal. But overall, when you go on and you pay, you don't need PayPal. It's so much easier to use your credit card. At one time, PayPal was the king because people were afraid to use their credit card, even though your credit card company protected you. People didn't want to put their numbers out there. So they want, you go to PayPal. There's a certain level of protection that PayPal gave to consumers. But then when we look at it and we say, well, they were the kings at one time, they're in a position, they have a lot of money is still transacting through PayPal. What would happen if they incorporate digital asset, if they get into the crypto game? Where are they going to go? Are they going to be able to propel themselves into the space back as one of the kings of the space? And that's exactly what they're trying to do. But it seemed like for the past little while, they've been against it. They didn't want anything to do with it, right? But we knew that in the background, they're working on something. So now all of a sudden, here you go, boom, PayPal's in the space. They're allowing people to buy and sell crypto, but it looks like they're creating a situation which makes sense from their perspective. If you look at their business model, they control everything. They don't want to create a wallet that allows you to put your money and take it off. They're more in that Robinhood model where you put your money on. You don't actually own the digital. You own the digital asset. You don't hold the keys to the digital asset. So you're not moving your digital asset off of the PayPal platform. Their marker to you is just a representation that you own it. They have it aside somewhere, maybe in a cold wallet or whatever. They have it represented that you own, let's say, one Bitcoin, you own one XRP, one whatever. But it's not really available to you. So like with Robinhood is awesome from a trading platform. It's on your phone. It's easy to use. It got a lot of people engaged and involved in trading that have never traded before. However, when you buy crypto on Robinhood, those aren't your keys. You don't actually control that crypto. It's just a representation that you own it. And it's stuck there. Same thing with PayPal. Now, what's different right now is that PayPal is looking like it could change, and it could change rapidly, because one of the things that they're talking about right now with PayPal, and I think it's really kind of motivating in the space to see that that everything is moving. Now it's going to start moving at a rapid pace, but with PayPal getting ready to buy. So PayPal, eBay in its day, Amazon now, Facebook, Google, all of these groups, they develop, but they get most of their technologies by buying their technologies. So a lot of big companies do that. They have invented their original tech, and then once they start adding tech on, they start buying technology. Facebook, Instagram, they bought Instagram. Facebook, WhatsApp, they bought it, right? They didn't develop it. They didn't have the platform that was the big wow factor. They bought it. PayPal, in order to get into the crypto space, to have that wow factor, guess what they're going to be doing? They're going to go around and start buying. One of them that they'd mentioned was BitGo. So that was already on the chopping block for a PayPal to come and buy it. I saw somebody talking about maybe Coinbase. I don't know. It all depends. You have to look at what is the valuation of a Coinbase, and is Coinbase, is their long game to go out and buy other entities, or are they going to allow themselves to be gobbled up by a PayPal, and PayPal is now going to control it? We don't know exactly what direction it might go in, but that's a possibility. PayPal could buy them. PayPal could buy maybe another exchange. Another exchange could come in. It's going to be interesting. And the biggest transitional point is going to be, when a banking system gets bought out somewhere in the middle of all this, because the legacy bank structure is crumbling, right? It's not falling apart right now over, we're not seeing the banking space fall apart completely. However, we are seeing the transition where the banking space is realizing and identifying, that their old game is up. There's a new game in town, and the new game in town is digital money. The governments are fighting for a centralized control of digital money. However, we can already see that from an investment perspective and a movement perspective and a regulatory perspective, like in the US, it's already been identified that Bitcoin and Ethereum aren't securities. They're going to continue to exist. There's a purpose for them. And so like we were talking about with Ripple, but if you look at XRP hasn't received that regulatory clarity in the US yet, whereas it has over in the UK. So it's just a matter of time as things transition and fall into place. But the biggest point with all of this is banking. So we saw, what was it? Kraken bought, banking license up in Wisconsin, not Wisconsin. Where was it? I don't know. I can't think of it off the top of my head right now. But anyhow, I think we're seeing, more and more of this type of thing happening, where we're going to see either banks that want to get into the digital asset space, find a smaller exchange and buy them in order to be relevant, or we're gonna Wyoming. That's right. Sorry, I was thinking, I was looking at the map. I'm like, which country, which state was it? Wyoming. So that was like the first big initiative. So here you have an exchange with a banking license. So that allows for more mainstream adoption from a regulatory perspective. Hey, now we're banking. Hey, come and bank with us. That's awesome. But the exchange from a digital asset perspective is already a bank. If you're holding your digital asset there, you can buy digital asset there. It's already like a financial institution. It's like a financial banking space for digital asset. They're just missing some of the regulation and some of the licensing, but it's kind of already there. Now, if you want to rapidly get there, you go and you buy a bank. So that's the question. Who's going to get bought out first? Now we see PayPal entering the game. They've got loads and loads of money behind them. When is Amazon going to get in the game? Amazon has talked about banking for a long time. And so when are they going to get and have their big play? We know how much money Amazon has. We know what Facebook is thinking about with Libra, and so they have that whole initiative. They haven't stopped. They're still moving forward with that initiative. This whole thing, the fallout over, over their Facebook platform. I don't know if they care about it, but is that the end all be all? Because right now that's where they're generating their revenue. That's where they make their ad revenue, etc. But they have all these other platforms. WhatsApp might be more valuable to them, especially if you want to see about moving money around. Instagram is an important platform for them, sharing of images and everything else, and as a marketing platform. So there's other, aspects of a Facebook. We might end up seeing Facebook get broken up. But I guess the point is that then maybe a lot of their focus goes into Libra, like Amazon, like PayPal. Everybody wants a little piece of this digital space. and I think that's where, all of this becomes like a very, very relevant conversation. The most important part, as we look at ourselves as investors, and we care about the technology in the space, we're passionate about seeing the development of the space. I think when we see a PayPal get in, that's just more recognition that this space is getting ready to propel to the next level, because a PayPal isn't going to invest in doing something like this unless they see the writing on the wall and what the next step is going to be, right? They waited. Now they're in, now they launch, things are heating up, things are getting ready to go. Now it's just a matter of how fast, how soon, but it could happen, relatively quick. So now, as we're talking about all of this, we see other big partnerships, right? So this was on Ledger Insights, Enterprise Blockchain News. And the news, it's been out there with other things, but we've talked, obviously IBM worked with Stellar. We know that R3 has been in the payment space. R3 with their Corda. Corda uses XRP as one of the digital assets that they can use within their payment project. But this one is big because here you have IBM partnering with R3 for enterprise blockchain. So in this case, let me see. This is right at the top of their the article here. As previously noted and now confirmed, IBM and R3 are collaborating both for IBM to provide R3's enterprise blockchain to its clients and for Corda Enterprise to be available to IBM Linux One across the hybrid cloud and on premises, especially in the area of digital asset custody. So, what do we know from that? And we know that IBM has been actively engaged, actively involved in this space for a long time, operating behind the scenes. We know that IBM is one of the big cloud platforms. We know that Amazon, is one of the big players in the cloud space. We know that Google is a player. We know Oracle, so there's some big entities in that space. But now as you get into the blockchain space and bring blockchain to enterprise, who's going to be hosting all of this? I think that's the next. There's going to be a battle waged in that space. Who's going to win? Is it going to be Amazon, AWS? Is it going to be IBM? Is it going to be Oracle? They're fighting over this really, really interesting space. I think, and this kind of gets well beyond everything else. But what keys in on all of this, right, is that it says, so here it says that, where were we? Oh, so they're looking at a digital asset custody. That's like one of their thoughts. And so it's really amazing, because, there's still, these big companies are still pushing forward. In Peru, IBM will be number one in cloud. Now, if you look at the financials, I think IBM has been losing money for the past 3 quarters. They haven't hit their numbers. So they're looking for a way to become relevant or stay relevant, as they have. Obviously, they lost the computer game a long time ago. They moved into this cloud space. IBM, is always in there behind the scenes, doing things, and we don't really, pay it much mind, based on what's going on. So Tony brought up something here, a bit off topic, but interesting to see R3 engaging more in topics of digital assets. Wonder if you're able to give your perspective. Oh, there we go. So, what is that? R3, what does that say? XDX. I'm not so familiar with that. I don't. What is the XDX? That I'm not. I haven't. I'm not sure what the XDX is. Maybe just give a little explanation on that. I don't know if it falls in line, but my opinion, if they're getting into, if we're looking at if XDX is on the DeFi side or, what they might be getting into, there's a lot of discourse on the DeFi side. I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to. I'm not sure if they're even getting into DeFi, but I'll look at the chat if you can throw that in there, and we'll come back to it. Now, here's something else that came out, and I think this is relevant, and it's kind of relevant to what's happening right now within the election. People in the U.S. are looking at capital gains taxes, and XDC, a digital asset made for Corda. I think that's a definite positive. I mean, there's going to be so many that are getting into the digital asset space. But XDC to transact, within Corda, Corda also involved in the cross-border payment space. So I don't see any detriment about it. I think, one of the factors that a lot of people on YouTube, they try to focus in on, oh, Corda is using XRP. Well, XRP was the first, not the only. Their objective within R3 is to also transact cross-border and connect all these dots. So having their own digital asset probably makes sense, considering that everybody else is getting into their own digital asset. So from that perspective, it's the thing to do now. You have the Binance coin, and you have the Celsius token, and you've got every exchange, every group is now rolling out with their own digital asset. So, I just think it was the next thing for them to get into. So it kind of makes sense. But all right, so we're looking at, so the difference here, I think it's interesting because, from an election perspective, what's going on right now, from a tax perspective, I think there's a lot of concern in the U.S., depending on the outcome of the election, that, if Trump wins, that the capital gains stay low, maybe even come down even lower. Right now, they're around 21%. Maybe they come down to 15%. It's good for people in the digital asset investment space because there's large amounts of money that are being made in the digital asset space. You want to spend, pay as little tax as possible, especially when you don't have a token taxonomy that's impacting the tax rules, so to speak, right now on these gains. Whereas on the other side, if you see Biden wins, then capital gains can go from 21 to 40%. So that could be have a major impact on people's gains in the digital asset space, gains in the stock space. So I think, when people are looking at that, that's become a topic that people are looking back at right now. Not a lot of discussion on it, but I think it's important to kind of point that out. And that was pointed out over this past week. There was an article that dropped about that. So let's see. So this one, we followed this for a while. And this was, we'll get a little bit into the Bahamian sand dollar. The Bahamian sand dollar, the first CBDC, the first one to truly launch. And it's not just a pilot program like over in China. This one is fully launched, fully 100% launched. It's great. I mean, I don't know if it's great, but we'll see if it's great. But it's interesting because you don't have a lot of residents over in the Bahamas, right? So I'm looking at this article. It's on Cointelegraph, and here they have this was on October 20th, so it was a couple days ago. The central bank, the CBDC, became available to all 393,000 residents of the Bahamas, and it started at 10 p.m. This makes the Bahamas the first country in the world to officially roll out a CBDC. So we know that they were in pilot program for a while, and they've been focused on, how can they make this happen. They wanted to create an environment where they're also, pulling away a little bit from reliance on the U.S. dollar. However, the sand dollar is pegged to the U.S. dollar. So they wanted, they're trying to create a little bit of stability within their economy, a little bit of stability with their digital asset. It's really interesting. So they're creating a pegged scenario. I don't know if that'll change, if that'll they'll develop it. But what is important here, it says here, the sand dollar is intended to drive greater financial inclusion within the archipelago nation of more than 700 islands, about 30 of which are inhabited. So I think, if you look at it from their perspective, again, building up their infrastructure, allowing 100% of the people to become banked through their e-wallets, through their mobile phones. That means that everybody can get involved in this digital asset space. It changes the fundamentals for the Bahamas, and I think it's a perfect case to look at because of this of the movement of the acceptance within this digital asset space, they're also going to be able to transact. It's going to be interesting to see where the sand dollars show up, on which exchanges, on which exchange they show up. But it makes it easier for people in the Bahamas to move money now. They can move money in, they can move money out. They're not tied. I mean, it's pegged to the US dollar from a value perspective, but they're no longer in the dollar legacy system. They're now in the digital system, and just more availability. It's now that it's available to everybody there first time. It's going to be interesting to see how it develops, and how it benefits everybody. Because again, from an unbanked perspective, I don't know what the percentage of unbanked may or may not be over in the Bahamas. However, it is now inclusive. It's allowing everybody access to a digital economy. It's going to give everyone access to kind of a banking scenario. If you want to why not get paid in a sand dollar? Why not move all your money over into sand dollars right now? It's pegged to the US dollar. It's backed by the government, so that's going to be really, really interesting. You know what? I don't know why I forgot that I could pop these over here. I don't know what I was thinking. Those whole chat, I could have been popping these over. But David D, Marshall Islands has even a lesser population here of 70,000. We need some first world countries to introduce these CBDCs. Yeah, so I get it. So you got little by little. You've got a CBDC like this, but it's pegged, it's interesting, it's digital, and it's definitely making progress within this space. So I think that's what we want to look at. Now, overall, CBDCs, do we really care about CBDCs in general that are centralized, that are legacy? Probably not. All right, Phoenix, it was good to see you on. I don't know what happened. So hang on. All of a sudden I was choking on something. So so anyhow, so again, differentiate the digital asset space from a CBDCs. Most CBDCs are centralized by the government, have nothing to do with blockchain, nothing to do with digital asset. It's going to be critical to see, these CBDCs that are also incorporating blockchain tech, that are rolling out in as the CEO of Bitso was saying, to democratize money. That's gonna be key, in the direction that we go in. So we care about governments that matter, pushing crypto rock up the hill. Exactly. So if they're moving, they're involved, they're helping. It just solidifies the space even more. So we like that. We definitely like that. Now with good, there's always some negatives that come out, some negative comments that come out. One of the negative comments is a German official. This was on Cointelegraph. The title here: CBDC as a store of value threatens the financial system, says a German official. The German central bank is considering alternatives to CBDC as a digital payment solution. Let's see, he said in his speech on the 20th that it's crucial to build tools to restrict how the digital euro is used upon launch. So, I don't know what their idea here, but going on and on, they see it. I think, from a legacy perspective, they see it as a threat. They see this easy movement of money as a threat, because the banks have, for the most part, helped to kind of constrain the movement of money. They slow it down. Now, but the idea here with a central bank digital currency, to create more centralized control over the currency, that's not good either. But you still need to be able to have interoperability. You need to be able to move between currencies, which we talk about with Ripple. Corda is going to be involved in that. IBM wants to be involved in that. PayPal, potentially, if they're moving outside of their retail focus, wants to be involved in that. Everybody is thinking now, here's a bank. So here's one more step in this whole process, which is I'm going to butcher the name of this bank over in Austria, Raiffeisen Bank International, RBI. So they're moving, and this is interesting. This is on CoinDesk. I pushed out a few articles on this to a chat group. But here it says they're bringing blockchain interoperability to its stablecoin project. So here you have a bank over in Austria that is looking. Here it says they're turning to technology that will allow its tokenized fiat currency to connect to multiple blockchains. So they're also looking at interoperability. Everybody's looking at interoperability. Everybody realizes, hey, if you have your own asset, you have your own CBDC, you still need to move between, right? It's not the end all be all. And everybody doesn't want to work with your currency. Everyone wants to work within their sovereign area. So you have country to country with their sovereign currency, their whatever it might be, their digital currency. You need interoperability. That's the name of the game for Ripple. That also goes back to the beginning of our conversation, why it's probably important that Ripple opens up an office over in Europe, whether it's the UK or Germany or wherever. I don't really care where they open it. That's up to them. They need to do what's good for them. They need a solid office representation over in Asia. SBI right now with Kitao. That's been their primary over in Japan. But then as the space grows, I think India, they probably need one over in the Middle East. That's going to be important as they open up these offices. That's also a sign of growth, not just for Ripple, but growth for the space in general. As we see, it's getting more competitive, a lot more competitive, which is good. We like to see competition. Competition's healthy. Competition in this space is more than healthy. We see what happened without competition, legacy fiat, financial institutions paying out small percentages, charging high percentages when you're borrowing. And then you see, organizations like SWIFT that are slow, that have been around since 1974 but it was critical at the time, right? SWIFT had its day. Everything had its day. Now we're moving in a direction of more inclusion of the economies, easier functionality between the economies, which is better for the people on the ground. Because again, as we talked about in the beginning, the democratization of access to money, to the digital space, to banking, to financial assets is critical for everybody. We definitely need to move in that direction. So, and that's where this is all going. Now, Morton here says, still do not get why Stellar would burn 50 billion. That's an interesting place to cap this, but who knows? But one of the things that that we brought up in one conversation is that maybe they had too many. Maybe as they're looking to what their objective is on the ground, it was just too many. And they want to slim it down. They have their own objectives of what they're doing, especially on the retail side of things, and that's where it becomes important. You look at XRP and XLM. There was a clear separation at one point. Also, two clear objectives: one focused on bigger financial institutions, one focused on retail. There's a lot of other things happening around them, but that was their objective. And so that's where we'll leave that. I think that was great. Hey, you know what? This was an awesome conversation. You guys are absolutely outstanding. I love turning to and seeing the chat because the chat is super engaging. Lots of amazing ideas that are being passed back and forth in the conversation. Again, a big shout out to everybody on here. I want to shout everybody out. I'm not going to go down the list, but a big shout out to everyone that joined us at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have people that come in from the West Coast. It's like, 5 o'clock in the morning out there. We got people over in Australia or Japan or, Thailand, and it's already end of day. And we got people in the UK mid-afternoon, over in the UAE, in Abu Dhabi today. So it's been outstanding. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll be back here with the roundtable. And so make sure you join us. We're going to have Sean Thompson on with us. That's going to be a really, really good conversation as well. We're going to have Chip, my co-host of the roundtable, on. So make sure you guys tune in for that. We're looking forward to that. And then I believe this week, Chip and I are going to try to get a live stream in on Wednesday as well. So that's what we're going to target. WildStar, man, I appreciate that. Yeah, I like doing these live streams. I love doing the Saturday morning. I love the group that we have here on Saturday morning, and looking forward to seeing it continue to evolve and grow and see where we end up, especially as this space is heating up right now. It's heating up beyond, anyone's potential expectations. So that was awesome. So thank you everyone who tuned in from YouTube. Thank you everyone who's tuned in from Twitter. Look, we got someone in from Kuwait. That's awesome. Arabian 88 all the way in from Kuwait. Fantastic. Glad to see you on here with us. I like seeing what's going on over in the Middle East. Lots of great economic development over there. My perspective on that, the Middle East is getting ready to blow up as an economic powerhouse of the world, way beyond just oil. There's so much more that's going to come out of the Middle East pretty soon. Just hang on and get ready to see. So that's it. You guys are awesome. I got to get out of here. And we'll see you guys tomorrow night. Definitely tune in tomorrow night. We'll see you then.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.